Hey everybody, and welcome to a Teacher's Wonderland YouTube channel. My name is Franny, and we are going to be talking all about concept mapping today. Make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe button, and that bell button so that you can be notified every time that we have a new video, which is pretty much almost every Tuesday and Thursday now. I am obsessed with concept mapping now. I didn't love it originally. Like, when I say I didn't love it, I really did not love it. I thought it was stupid and pointless. But now I'm obsessed. So, what is concept mapping? Concept mapping is taking your thoughts and putting them in a visual world. So, instead of having your students write down line by line by line, it's actually helping your students work through and identify the questions based off of kind of like a web. So, it'll be easier when I show it to you in a second, but just think of it that it's a visual way to express yourself. That works. All right, so let me present. I hate when I have to say that. Okay, so there we go. The first thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to follow the flowchart to understand what we are reading. And then on top of that, we're going to add as many arrows as we possibly could need. I should have done this on my iPad, but that's okay. Okay, so let's start off with who is the main character. We're going to use the story Little Red Riding Hood just because everybody knows that one, right? So when you're using the story Little Red Riding Hood, we're thinking of the fact that the girl, Red, we're going to call her Red, her problem is that she has to take, so who's the main character? Start with that. Who's the main character? Main character is Little Red Riding Hood. I don't even know if that's her real name, but we're going to say it is for the sake of this. Next, we're going to say, what was the first problem? Okay, every book has problems. Otherwise, what kind of story are we going to have? Who's going to want to read something that doesn't have a challenge, right? I mean, I'm not saying it has to be a crazy challenge, but we want to do something. We want to have some type of challenge somewhere in our story. So every single book, even ones that our students are writing, has some type of challenge. And this is where we are going to identify them. So the first part is, what is Little Red Riding Hood's first problem? Well, isn't it that her mom or her grandmother is sick and she has to bring her grandmother like soup and stuff, right? So that's our first problem, is that her grandmother is sick and she has to bring the grandmother food. And the mom is sending I always felt like Red Riding Hood was like 8. She might not have been. She might have been younger or older. No idea. So I always felt like she was 8. And so we'll say Little Red Riding Hood has to go to her grandmother's house to take care of the grandmother. So the first problem is she's taking care of the grandmother and she has to bring her soup. So what is the second problem in the story? Well, the second problem, this really isn't a big problem because she doesn't even know it's a problem yet, right? Like the little girl, doesn't even realize that the wolf is like following her and kind of like stalking her in a way. The wolf is following her around the entire section, right? Or the entire woods, but isn't even like doing anything yet. But then we start to see that the main character realizes that there is a problem because the main character walks into her grandmother's house and her grandmother's got a big nose and her grandmother's got some big eyes and right? Isn't that the story? Of course, now I'm like questioning myself on what is the actual story. So our job is to understand that the character does have a problem. That character needs to pretty much save the grandmother. So what is the main problem now? The main problem is that the grandmother was eaten by a wolf. How does she connect? So how does Little Red Riding Hood connect with the wolf? Well, that's pretty awesome because she actually does it in a way where she says, like, oh, you look so lovely with your little hat on, Grandma. And she tries to convince the wolf to let her go. But does the main character solve her own problem? Not in this book, right? So it ends up being that the hunter comes and solves the problem because the hunter kills the wolf, technically. So the main character doesn't solve it, but she does solve it with help. And how do they solve it? They hurt the wolf and they end up getting the grandmother out of the wolf's stomach. Great story. But you see how I was able to kind of break it apart. Now let's do the exact same thing. We're going to use a book called We Don't Eat Our Classmates. And if you don't know this book, it's about a little dinosaur who has to go to school with humans, believe it or not. And her name is Penelope Rex because she's a T-Rex. So Penelope Rex. And Penelope Rex has to work with the humans and not eat them. It's a really cute story. I like using this one at the beginning of the school year too. It's cute. It's cute. I like it. Anyway, so yeah, so that's what this book is gonna be about. So let's look at our problem here. So in the beginning, we're gonna identify. Oh, wait, share this. There we go. So in the beginning, we have Penelope Rex, and she's gonna go directly in the center because she is our character here. How do I zoom? There we go. So she is our main character. She's actually going to go right here in the middle. And then we're going to scroll right up. And I left these blank. The arrows blank. And the reason why I leave them blank is because when my students start answering the questions, I actually have them add their arrows in. So I do leave it kind of blank for them, which is whatever, it's fine. And if you want to draw it in, you can. It's totally up to you. So what was Penelope Rex's first problem? Well, besides the fact that she is going to a school with humans, her first problem is that she eats her classmate. She just straight up eats her classmate, which is kind of funny. I'm not going to lie. So now we see that she eats the classmates. And then what happens after that? Well, the teacher says, Penelope Rex, what are you doing? Let go of that student. Okay. So our second problem becomes that she eats another student and she gets in trouble again. And she still is kind of like, meh, whatever. But then here's where we're really going to start to see that there's a problem. Penelope realizes that nobody wants to sit with her. Nobody wants to go down the slide with her. Nobody wants to play with her at lunch or recess or in the classroom. Why? Because she's eating them. So she's realizing that there is a problem, and she talks to she doesn't solve her problem yet. She talks to her dad, and her dad's like, well, just, they're humans, don't eat them. He's pretty chill about it. Like, my kid's eating? No, it's fine. She can eat the humans. It's okay. So Penelope, as she's going, she becomes empathetic to her classmates and realizing that the reason she didn't even realize there was a problem, to be honest with you. She was just like, what? Why don't they like me? And all of her classmates are running away from her, absolutely scared. But then she's like, well, why don't they like me? Like, what happened that makes them not like me? Well, I try to eat them. So what? Who cares? Well, then she becomes empathetic because she ends up putting her finger in the fish bowl, thinking that the fish was nice and he wasn't. And that fish eats her. And she's like, that's horrible. And so she realizes, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be empathetic to my classmates now because they don't like being eaten. I'm not going to like being eaten. So she just become a little bit more empathetic. So does she end up solving her problem? Yeah, she kind of does. She ends up realizing, like, I can't eat my classmates because that's not what you do. And she solves her own problem by telling her classmates, like, I'm really sorry. And she eventually apologizes to them and says to them, like, I'm sorry for trying to eat you. I shouldn't have. And then every time she goes to eat them, here's how she solves her problem, because her problem specifically was that she wants to eat the humans. Every time she goes to eat the humans, the fish is just staring at her. And she's like, no. I don't want to be eaten by the fish, which is like a goldfish. But she's like, oh my gosh, the fish is going to eat me. It's a cute book. But I like this one for concept mapping because the kids really connect with it. So I highly recommend that if you decide to use concept mapping, that you use how we do not eat our classmates. If you're looking for this particular lesson, this is actually in my Dive Into Reading lesson plans. You can actually download a free one going to www.teacherswonderland.com/dive-into-reading. Should be simple, but it's not. I can't wait to hear if you guys use this lesson in your classroom. Let me know.